to gallbladder and gingivitis, and all points in between. I'm Dr. Bob Martin. Tune into my Sunday talk show at 10 o'clock on Talk 1470 WNN.
Hi, it's Jay Foster. Join us 7 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. for Health Connection Radio. We'll talk about natural cholesterol control, toxic metal syndrome, how to reverse bone loss, and the latest scientific research on vitamins and minerals. We'll have fascinating guests, and we'll take lots of your calls, too. So join us 7 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. for Health Connection Radio right here on WNN.
Talk 1470, WWNN, Pompano Beach, Boca Raton, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
The Department of Dermatology at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine says of the many skincare products containing antioxidants, only lycopene has been shown in clinical studies to be a benefit in protecting the skin against the harmful effects of environmental free radicals and the sun's UV rays. Unlike other lycopene-containing skincare products that use powdered tomatoes, lycopene skincare products are formulated in Italy using a highly purified and concentrated form of lycopene extracted from organic tomatoes. At Lycopene Skincare, we are committed to giving you the highest quality and freshest skin cream containing natural botanical ingredients proven beneficial for skin health and beauty. Lycopene creams are made in small batches to maintain the effectiveness of our ingredients. We are preservative-free and animal-friendly. We invite you to try all our creams and see the difference. Your satisfaction is always guaranteed at Lycopene Skincare. Please visit our website at lycopeneskincare.com. That's Lycopene, Lycopene, skincare.com. And let Lycopene lead your skin on the path to beauty.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Good morning. I'm Raquel the Bell on the one and only WWNN 1470. Today in the studio, we have Tracy from We Are the People. You can join her every Monday night from 7 to 7:30 p.m. on her website, wearethepeople.tv. Tracy tackles the student loan dilemma and offers viable options. And now, here's Tracy.
Good evening and welcome to We Are the People. And tonight is our last show. And Jeff has joined me one more time to say goodbye. Thank you for coming.
Can't believe it's already here, but the show's had a great run, and
yeah,
all good things must come to an end.
It must, and we can always pick it up later. So, the important thing is that we've had a lot of great conversations. I've met a lot of amazing people. I mean, this place has been great for all kinds of networking.
It's been great at opening up the public discussion of some issues and topics that I've pretty much not talked about very many other places.
So, and we'll be back at some point in time. I don't know exactly what, but I want to focus on the nonprofit, the Student Services Society. And it's funny how when you make the decision to make some changes, how things start happening, because I was on the fence. I didn't know what to do about a lot of things. And once I made that decision, though, I'm pending a $2,500 donation right now.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's our first corporate. It could be a corporate. I don't know if it's going to be corporate or personal. They haven't decided. I'm getting part of it real soon. So I'm looking forward to that because we still have some things to finish up to get this up and on the, on the revenue generating side, because we need to generate that revenue in order to be able to help the students.
Well, hopefully the fact that the student loan crisis has now become thankfully a focal point of at least some of the candidates in this election cycle. Hopefully that will bring more awareness and more public discussion of it, which would help the organization. In general, you have to have, it has to be part of the public debate and part of the public discourse in order to attract the needed funds that is going to be necessary to advance the ball forward.
Right, and it does need to be. Now, and see, the thing is with the student loans, now you've got a few of the candidates, of course they're Democrats, that are talking about free tuition. And we've
Yes.
discussed the difference between Hillary's plan and Bernie Sanders' plan. Basically, Hillary's is going to cost the taxpayers more money in the long run. However, what none of them are doing are talking about the students that are in debt already.
No, that's just collateral damage that's going to have to play out.
And
a lot of those are millennials, unfortunately.
well, 2/3 of them are two-thirds of the student loan debtors are over 35.
Yes. Well, I think that's still the tail end of the millennial. I think
Yeah,
millennials is after
well,
1980.
just like, yeah, that's true. I'm the very end of the baby boomers. So I don't look at myself like that, though. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And honestly, I mean, I saw another comment on Facebook, and it was a friend of mine, a Facebook friend, somebody I don't know that I've never met in person, but you know, we've palled around for several years now, and the thing came up. Somebody paid off their student loans, and people don't understand. You know, you took out these loans. Why do you think you shouldn't have to pay them off? And it's really not a matter of. It's not that people don't want to pay them off. It's that they've been paying on them for years, have paid back the principal at least once, if not 2 or 3 times, and yet their loan amount is still going up. So there's a lot of legalities that are in question here.
I think it's also the way that you view education, and whether you view education the same way that you would view buying a new Rolex watch or buying a Ferrari or something like that. If you really do view it that way, then it is just a product that the consumer should pay for. But if you believe that education has value beyond just the goods and services that we buy in everyday life, then you would say that the state should play a role in facilitating education. And after all, the state provides education for free K through 12. So the question
less and less, though. I mean...
Yes.
I mean, they're still there, but they've gutted those schools so badly financially that they don't have the staff or the resources to be good schools, and now people are moving their kids over to the privatized charter schools.
They can pay for it twice in some circumstances if they move their kids to a private school. Then
but they don't see that.
They don't see that, but I mean, that's ultimately what it is from an economic perspective. They pay for it once with their taxes. They pay for it again when they move their kids out of public schools and put them in a private school. That's something you're absolutely right about, how these programs have been gutted. But as we sit here today, you still a child can still get an education and a diploma, albeit perhaps inferior quality depending on the socioeconomic area that they're from.
True.
But it's something that traditionally the state has always played a role in, because it's considered to have offshoot advances for society. If you have a population that's more educated, you're going to have more innovation.
Less ignorance.
Less ignorance, and you're just going to have more productivity coming from the population. And so it's really a question of, do you view education as something that is exclusively for people that can afford it, or should it be available to others? And that's, that's, I think, where the debate is at right now, or where it should be at. And someone says, well, you took out the loan, shouldn't you pay them back? You know, it's not really the same thing as, taking out a loan to buy a Rolex watch or...
That's true, but it's being treated like that. And now you have many corporations that are they're partnering up with these schools. And I don't care what anybody says, that's going to control curriculum if it doesn't already.
It's also going to potentially make it more difficult to determine qualifications associated with the degrry as well. There's
no standardization whatsoever.
There's no standardization, and it's I would foresee that we might be seeing to the point that you have mail order. There are some programs that have mail order PhDs.
Well, they're doing that more and more for master's degrees. Everything is going online, and honestly, I just some people, I think there is a niche market for that, because there's different people learn differently, but I personally could never do that. I need that one-on-one. I need that person.
Well, vocational degrees, certain things that, for example, cosmetology school and that sort of thing, where there's a certain set curriculum for what somebody would need to know to be certified to do a very specific task. That's the type of thing that you can have these types of programs for. For example, getting your realtor's license, where you have to know the FREC rules, for example, something like that. But when you're having a degree that's supposed to have, a little bit more meat to it, so to speak, such as
more hands-on,
more hands-on, or more interaction with faculty and so forth, that's something that it's very dangerous that we're turning this now over to a fully private, for-profit model. I mean, we've had private schools for a long time, but they've had endowments and they've had some semblance, at least, of academic independence.
Well, a lot of them still do have endowments. I mean, they have a lot of money, but that it's not getting passed on to the students.
It's not getting passed on to the students, and like we were saying earlier, the more that we're having these for-profit institutions where it's the bottom line is ultimately what drives the curriculum and what drives the research, then it's going to become very challenging to see how education goes forward. With respect to the candidates, I think that there are some major differences, certainly between Hillary and Bernie's plans. I don't think we're really hearing anything from anyone else. The thing about Bernie's plan that really makes it different, that I think we've talked about and we really like, is the fact that he's going to pay for it with a tax on hedge fund speculation.
And that's the key thing, is speculation. It's not like they're getting taxed on everything. I mean, people get confused with that, just like they get confused with the 90% tax rate. I mean, you're not taking out 90%.
Well, he's ultimately going to be taxing Wall Street speculation, which is...
They're gambling.
They're gambling. It's kind of like a tax on gambling to a certain extent. Wall Street really is,
it's
at
roulette.
its core, a huge casino. That's why we had the financial meltdown before, and why we may very well have one again. We've had the banks that have gotten huge, and they're gambling with other people's money. So that's ultimately what is going to be taxed, as opposed to an income tax on middle and lower income people.
But even if that was modified a little bit, do you realize that could pay for K through PhD?
Yes.
Okay, and if you do the math all the way out, which I've had a couple different people, I've seen some different speculations on that, you could actually pay off all the debt in 3 years. All student loan debt could be paid off in 3 years. If you had them eat the interest, it could be done in a year.
It's quite remarkable.
And the bank should eat the interest. Wall Street should be eating the interest. I mean, we've bailed them out a gazillion times, but yet they want to cut the 10 cents a day from somebody that, that's basically $72,000 a year. You're paying about 10 cents a day for food programs.
Interesting comment that I have to make on that is that the justification for the state not stepping in, for example, in a situation like that and telling the banks they have to eat the interest is something that's called the sanctity of contract. In other words, the banks are entitled.
They've written their own laws.
They've written their own laws, but they also have a contract with the student loan, with the student that's taken out the loan, saying that they're entitled to this interest. And the state can't come in and rewrite that contract or take away what the bank's entitled to. That's the argument that's been put forth.
That's a good argument.
It's a good argument, but you look at how that argument doesn't really hold any weight. For example, when we look at the city of Detroit when it went bankrupt, we look at all of the public municipal workers that ultimately didn't get their paychecks. We also look at, for example, when large companies go bankrupt and often workers are not fully
but
paid.
Yet they still have millions in assets.
Right.
And they can go bankrupt.
And the sanctity of contract doesn't apply to those workers, but yet it applies to the big banks. And so we see different rules for different people. And
yeah, well, I mean, we have unconstitutional rules on the books. I mean, it's all gone haywire, basically.
Well, now, we've talked about it a lot with Citizens United, and now we live in a post-Citizens United world in which money is speech and corporations are people. They have all of the same rights and privileges of the Constitution is now afforded to corporations,
All of
including the
them?
largest ones, including the big banks. They're constitutionally protected entities now.
And so this, people, is why we need to get the big money out, regardless of whether you're a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat. You know, that's just not right. They are not people, okay? And, you know, isn't it funny how it applies to upper management, but yet the workers, it's like...
Well, management and shareholders.
Management and shareholders. But what about the workers? I mean, they get shafted every single time. And how is that fair?
It's not fair because, you know, I'd like to see some discussion, especially coming with the election cycle. You know, the Republicans and even the Democrats, to a large extent, often talk about job creators, including President Obama. So this is not only the Republicans that are guilty of this, but they talk about big business and Wall Street, to a large extent, as job creators. But nobody ever talks about the fact that the workers, they are ultimately the ones that create investment opportunities in the first place. They're the ones that actually go in the factory.
They're spending the money.
Well, they're spending the money. They're also making the stuff that gets sold. Without the workers, you have no product. And so they're the ones that are creating opportunities to invest in the first place, and they're the ones that are going out and buying it. So it's interesting.
But they've got everything made overseas now. And I mean, come on, the quality. There's so many great products that used to be great, that suck now. I mean, doors, Geldwin doors, amazing doors at one point in time. You know, they were hardwood or different types of wood. I mean, you know, you get in with the environmentalists, and, you know, that'll be upsetting to some people too. But the point, it was a good product. They're crap now. Home Depot now sells their doors, so there's a cheaper version.
We also
You've
don't
got
know what's in them.
Farberware. Okay, those used to be great knives. They are terrible now. I mean, clothing, you can like see through. I guess a lot of it they want you to see through, but I mean, the stitching, the quality is just not there.
And we also don't know what's in them. You know, we recently had the scandal with the formaldehyde-laced wood that was coming over from China. Ultimately, because there's no
China
quality
keeps
control.
sending us all kinds of bad stuff. I mean, wasn't it? It had something to do with lead paint with toys not that long ago with China.
There's been lots of scandals, and if you're someone like me, I always take the tip of the iceberg approach. I say for everything I see, there's 10 times as much that I don't see.
There's 10 times as much. Yeah.
We can't assume that every single one that's caught, or that every scandal is necessarily discovered. We only know the ones that we see. There's probably many more that we don't see that don't get caught. Because you think about it, you know, whenever a corporation engages in public deception like this, it's doing it because it thinks it can get away with it.
Well,
it
yeah,
probably
because
does
it's
get away
cheaper.
with it.
They do get away with it. They've got all these lawyers, and they figure, how far can we go with this? And then they settle. They settle out of court. They never have to admit any wrong, and it's just, oh, well, it's cheaper. Let's just settle. But, I mean, come on, that's part of the business plan in the first place. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, that's why we have punitive damages. And, you know, there's been that's a whole other discussion. There's been lots of states, including Florida, that's limited punitive damages significantly. For example, Florida is 3 times actual damages or $500,000, whichever's
bigger.
And that can severely limit the ability, at least of the court system, to punish wrongdoers in a situation like this. If they're putting profits over public safety, then really they should get punished, or in some cases...
Well, of course they should.
I mean, there should be, if they are people, there should be such a thing as a death penalty for a corporation that
Yeah,
engages in
there
this.
you go. Death penalty for a corporation. I like that. If they're going to be people, let's do it.
Absolutely.
So we're going to come up with all kinds of great ideas for Student Services Society on how to do these kind of things.
Yes.
Once we go for the 527, and, you know, that's the 5-year plan. But, you know, with the student loan issue, I mean, these schools, how many of them are in the news now? I mean, unless you go looking for it, you won't see it. But I see articles every day. I mean, I'm involved in a lot of student loan groups, so, you know, I see this kind of news. It's not something you ever hear on mainstream news. I've never heard it, you know, unless it's derogatory and they're trying to rake somebody over the coals, you know, and then they control the whole thing. They usually don't let the person finish their sentence. they don't ever get to say their piece. They just ask questions and draw it out of them to make it look the way they want to. And, these companies have been ripping people off for years. There are many, many lawsuits out there, many, many more lawsuits that are going on. I mean, you cannot claim bankruptcy. They've stripped all rights. And then you have companies like ALEC, ALEC, and they are the ones that go and they sit with your congressmen and they sit with the heads of these companies and they write the legislation. They give to the campaigns. And, this is our last show, so I'm asking you, please go to opensecrets.org and look at what is going on. I mean, it's hard. It's hard when you have your faith in somebody and you want them to be your next president or congressman or pastor or wife or whatever. But, I think with Citizens United, it's become... This is
consecrated now.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a whole new level, and if we don't do something,
well, it's ultimately the path towards totalitarianism. Now that we individuals as people, flesh and blood human beings, we don't have the same rights that large corporations and banks and Wall Street do by necessity, because we can never outspend them. So our voices will never be heard and really won't play a role in the democratic process. I mean, we only have two parties, so they can give to both parties, and
they do.
And they do.
And you can see that on Open Secrets too.
President Obama was heavily funded by Wall Street and Goldman Sachs, and and they give money to both sides.
Pretty much done nothing for student loans.
He's done very little for student loans, and even the Obamacare, which is considered to be just this revolutionary. It's a step in the right direction, but it really isn't this revolutionary act.
No,
as it claims to be.
But the thing is even him and Romney and several other Republicans, I mean, this was a Republican idea in the first place. I mean, everybody screams about Obamacare, but I mean, I read about Romney's plan too, and there was, I mean, I can't remember now because it's been a while, but there wasn't that much of a difference.
There was very little difference, and even the very far to the right politicians in the other industrialized countries, for example, Europe and Canada, would never dream of getting rid of universal health care, which would be the single payer system that Bernie's trying to advocate for right now.
I think single payer is a good idea, because the same thing that's happening with the banks, with television, with the school, everybody's buying them up. I mean, I have a friend that does medical billing, and all these insurance companies are now merging. They can do whatever they want. They don't care.
There's been many public surveys that have found that the vast majority of the American public wants a single payer system. But
it doesn't matter what
the public wants, because the insurance companies simply won't accept it. The pharmaceutical companies won't accept it. And so that's what we're left with, because they're the ones that write the checks.
Well, represent us, represent.us.org, I believe it is. But if you just put in represent.us, and it's also on Facebook, they actually have a video. I showed it here. You can, I'm going to have to coordinate and get all my clips back together and stuff. But go and look for them. They actually have a great little video on what happens. And you know, it shows you just exactly how money has influenced everything. And the people get what they want less than 30% of the time, because it's bought. It is bought.
Yes, it's essentially.
I mean, they don't term it like that, but.
I mean, the state can be utilized to perform some benign tasks, but they're going to be crumbs off the dinner table here that we're talking about, and that's what we've seen with the ACA. Again, step in the right direction, but we're really talking about crumbs off the dinner table. We're not talking about the real, meat that the public deserves, the real reform and the real change. I mean, it's a serious healthcare scandal that we have here. We have some of the worst healthcare outcomes in the world at the highest cost.
We have the highest infant mortality rate in the world. We're supposed to be the country with all the answers, and we have more babies dying in this country.
And we have to remember,
than any other country.
Before Obamacare, we, compared to all other industrialized countries, we paid the highest in taxes and got for health care. and got no health care in exchange for all those taxes, which
Right,
is really
people.
amazing.
So you all paid for this, and we're not, it's not, we call it Obamacare, but it's not Obamacare. It wasn't even a Democratic plan in the first place, but he was already, in their pocket.
I mean, the whole concept of excluding someone for a pre-existing condition is really quite barbarous when you think about it. And I think that,
Oh, it is. It's barbaric.
a few decades from now,
We're just going to let you die.
well, I mean, if you look at, for example, workers' compensation, that's something that we would never, no one would ever consider touching now, right? Nobody would say, well, if you get hurt on the job, you should
They're working on it, I'm sure.
I'm sure they're working on it.
Especially if we allow the corporations to, to keep this power. So seriously, folks, you have got to, I don't care which side you're on, you need to pressure your congressmen, your senators into getting rid of Citizens United. So we've only got a few minutes left. It's 7:25. I do want to mention, seeing that we're going to be gone, we're going to be running a commercial through the station at some point. Don't forget December 17th, which is Thursday, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. They're actually open to 3. Churchill's in Miami. We're going to do our first fundraiser bash for Christmas. So this one's on y'all. Next, in a couple years, it'll be on me. But we've got 8 amazing bands that have donated their time, and Churchill's is donating the doors. So come out and listen to some great music. We'll talk about student loans if that's what you want to do. We'll have a beer and
Absolutely.
You're going to be there? You're going to try to be there?
I intend to. And, in the few minutes we have left, I just have to, remind everyone that your voice matters.
It does.
One voice added to another can make a huge impact. And that's what we have to do. We have to keep vigilant and keep our people in position of power and our leaders honest by insisting that they answer to us, that they answer to the electorate.
It is up to us now. It is. Now, Jeff, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can give me an email, jvt2law@gmail.com. You can be happy to.
You got a Facebook page?
As well.
Okay,
Yes, on
Jeffrey
Facebook.
Van Treese.
And you can also contact me through Tracy's page with We Are the People.
Yes.
And, join the discussion.
So, yes,
sure.
we're going to work on that. Now that I'm going to be walking away from the show for a while, I'm going to working on the computer situation. I should be able to be spending more time on that page and promoting that. So come out and see us. Look on Facebook for the We Are the People Students for Liberty page, and there are film clips there. I'll let you know through that site where everything's archived. Of course, I'm all over YouTube. I probably won't have the website up. I'm going to just use Facebook for now, and but anyway, through there is all the changes, and Student Services Society is also on Facebook, so look for the green SSS logo, and come see us on December 17th. Churchill's is like full of local color.
Yes.
It's a great little place. 1979, that's the year I came back to Florida, and that's the year they opened, so it's kind of like going home.
Absolutely.
So we got 1 minute. Anything you want to say before we say goodbye for
just
a while?
I just want everyone out there to educate themselves on the issues. Go look up Citizens United, student loans. Stay vigilant and hopefully try to keep everybody honest.
Right. So thank you again for joining us. It's been a great 2.5 years. Appreciate your time. Come on out and see us next month.
Next month, that's right.
Yeah, we'll be here before you know it. Thanks again. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
It's going to be so much fun.
You have been listening to We Are the People with social advocate Tracy Marks, who every week bring to the light the needs and changes in our current system. Tune in every Monday night at 7 p.m. on WeAreThePeople.tv and participate in the conversation in the chat room or call 888-565-1470. Tune in next Monday for more information and facts, and stay aware of your surroundings and challenges at all times.